Good morning, Suncoast. I'm Pastor Brett Watson. Please do not fear, the dress code has not changed. I will be dressed very differently next week, but thanks for joining us here today for this final installment of Suncoast Summer at the Movies. I can tell you that you have definitely never experienced anything like you're about to witness here at Suncoast. This will be a musical and teaching experience interwoven from the work of Victor Hugo's Les Misérables. Yeah. At its core, Les Mis portrays the transformative power of God's grace through its main character, and that is Jean Valjean. Valjean is initially imprisoned for 19 years for simply stealing a loaf of bread to feed his sister's starving child. He commits a crime later on, a more grievous crime, but Valjean encounters the mercy of a bishop who spares him further punishment for that crime. And this one act of forgiveness marks a pivotal moment as Valjean determines to embrace a completely new life of compassion and redemption. In sharp contrast, we have Inspector Javert, who embodies a rigid obedience to the letter of the law. In his view, the law, justice, is absolute and uncompromising. And so he relentlessly pursues Valjean for decades because Javert cannot reconcile his belief in the law's infallibility with the grace that Valjean receives and now embodies. And the music of Les Mis that you'll hear today serves as a powerful conveyance of these themes, as the songs will explore the tension between punishment and grace, between justice and mercy, duty and compassion. And so Les Mis presents a very profound exploration of human morality and divine grace that transcends legalistic interpretations of justice. So today we invite you to contemplate through the interweaving of music and teaching the complexities of forgiveness, redemption, and the transformative power of grace in a world so often defined by its stark moral contrasts. Thank you again. Enjoy. Les Mis is a timeless tale which conveys the power of mercy and grace and compassion. Written in 1862 by Victor Hugo, set against the backdrop of 19th century France, Les Mis is going to take us on this deep dive in understanding the complex themes of forgiveness, compassion, and the struggle for personal salvation. To this day, Les Mis stands as a testament to the human spirit's capacity for transformation and the profound impact that mercy, grace, and love have in the confrontation against adversity and injustice. One of the things I want us to think about Suncoast as we listen to the music and the teaching sort of interwoven together in an original way this way is that there is a confrontation, a collision of two ways to look at the world. One way is embodied in Inspector Javert, who represents this rigid worldview of absolute adherence to the law and the relentless pursuit of anyone who breaks it. You see, for Javert, people cannot change. People do not have the capacity to transform. You are either good or you are either evil, and the law is what separates the two. It is a world of black and white moral absolutes. But yet, we see the confrontation of this in the life of the main protagonist, the main character, Jean Valjean, who gets sent to prison for 5 years for stealing a loaf of bread to feed his sister's starving child.
Then he gets an additional 14 years in prison for trying to escape because he feels that this is unjust. And his time in prison has hardened and embittered Valjean. In the song you're about to hear, his soliloquy, he says, I have hated the world because it has hated me. But Valjean shows us a very different way of viewing the world. Not one of strict, rigid morality, but a world that needs grace and compassion because it is so often absent. In Valjean, we see the capacity for people to change. But yet on this road of adversity and despair, thinking nothing could ever change or go good for him in his life, Valjean does encounter grace and mercy. His name is Bishop Muriel. Valjean is unable to find a place to live because of his criminal past. He's unable to find a job because of his criminal past. But yet Bishop Muriel invites him and takes him in and shows him radical hospitality. But yet one night, Valjean succumbs to his old life and he steals silver from the cupboard in the church. The next morning, he's apprehended by authorities. He's brought back to the church to face up to the very man he stole from and betrayed, and yet the very man who showed him grace and hospitality. But in that moment, while he's expecting condemnation and accusation, Valjean gets something rather different. Bishop Muriel forgives him, and in fact, gifts him 2 additional very precious silver candle holders. The song called What Have I Done is also known as Valjean's soliloquy. It is in this song you're about to hear where he is reflecting on this pivotal moment, this life-changing moment where he is seen for the first time to actually have value. The priest says, "You have a soul, Valjean," something he did not believe before. That is the message of Les Mis, is that our hearts are changed by love and grace, not by absolute adherence to rigid moral principles. Enjoy Valjean's soliloquy.
What have I done, sweet Jesus, what have I done? Become a thief in the night, become a dog on the run. Have I fallen so far and as the hour so late that nothing remains but the cries of my hate, the cries in the dark that nobody hears, here where I stand, the turning of the years. If there's another way to go, I must have missed it long years ago. My life was a war that can never be won. They gave me a number and they murdered Valjean when they chained me and left me for dead, just for stealing a mouthful of bread. Yeah, why did I allow this man to touch my soul and teach me love? He treated me like any other. He gave me his trust. He called me brother. My life he claims for God above. Can such things be? For I had come to hate the world. This world that always hated me. Take an eye for an eye. Turn your heart into stone. This is all I have lived for. This is all I have known. One word from him and I'd be back beneath the lash upon the rack. Instead he offers me my freedom. I feel my shame inside like a knife. Told me that I have a soul. How does he know? The Spirit comes to move my life. reaching, but I fall. And the night is closing in as I stare into that void, to the whirlpool of my sin. I escape now from that world, from the world of Jean Valjean. Jean Valjean is nothing now. Another story must begin.
And Valjean's story does begin. He takes the silver that is given to him by Bishop Muriel, sells it, and does exactly what Bishop Muriel told him to do. Use these to build a better life. Valjean becomes a successful businessman in France. But yet the story shifts to another character, and this is why Les Mis is such a classic novel, because it captures the full spectrum of the human experience and the human condition. One of the songs you'll see in the next medley is called I Dreamed a Dream, sung by the character Fantine. And she poignantly reflects on her life of unmet expectations. She laments about the shattered dreams and the hopes that she once had for her life. And she reflects that her life has simply not turned out the way that she hoped it would. But instead, her hopes and dreams have been replaced by suffering, betrayal, and hardship. These lyrics, as you'll see, vividly portray this disillusionment and the universal experience we all face when our dreams die. But for us today, Suncoast, these lyrics in I Dreamed a Dream should serve a purpose to teach us something. They should teach us this powerful reminder that our dreams are really fragile. It should teach us and remind us of how unpredictable life can be. And it should also remind us of how the emotional turmoil we face when our dreams are shattered. As you listen to the song by Fantine, I Dreamed a Dream, you're also gonna hear from Fantine's young daughter named Cassette as she sings this song, Castle on a Cloud, where she dreams about a place where the hardship and the adversity she faces is no more. You see, here, these two songs intertwine to teach us this powerful truth that we need to have a world filled with compassion and grace, because the world desperately needs it, because it's often absent. These songs point to the fact that even in our gravest of situation, even in the harshness of life circumstance, hope can still live and remain. But today I want to tell you, Suncoast, this is that these songs teach us this profound truth that your dreams do not have to absolutely die. Even if you never experienced the dream that you've dreamed, your dream can live on if you allow it to live on through the ones you love. Because you never know what will happen. You never know how life can change for others if you give 2 silver candlesticks. The ripple effect of grace and mercy, well, they travel throughout generations and throughout people. Enjoy this next selection.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by, when hope was high and life worth living. I dreamed that love would never die. I dreamed that God would be forgiving. Then I was young and under as they tear your hope apart, as they turn your dream to shame. He slept a summer by my side. He filled my days with endless wonder. He took my childhood in his stride, but he was gone when autumn came. And still I dream he'll come to me, that we would live the years together. But there are dreams that cannot be, and there are storms we cannot weather. I had a dream my life would be so different from this hell I'm living, so different now from what it seemed. Now life has killed the dream. I dream.
There is a castle on a cloud. I like to go there in my sleep. Aren't any floors for me to sweep? Not in my castle on a cloud. There is a room that's full of toys. There are 100 boys and girls. Nobody shouts or talks too loud. Not in my castle on a cloud. There is a lady all in white, holds me and sings a lullaby. She's nice to see and she's soft to touch. She says, "Cassette, I love you very much." I know a place where no one's lost. I know a place where no one cries. Crying at all is not allowed. Not in my castle on a cloud.
Here the story jumps in Les Mis approximately 10 years. Fantine has died and Cassette is left. But Valjean's life, he's experiencing this deep transformation because of the grace and mercy shown. And he takes little Cassette in as his adopted daughter. Now she's a young woman and she's falling in love with a young, wonderful man named Marius. You'll see them sing together in their introduction in a song called My Heart Full of Love. But yet there's another character who gets introduced. Her name is Eponine, because Marius is not only the object of desire for little Cassette, who's now a young lady, but Eponine, who grew up with Cassette, also sees Marius as a would-be suitor. But yet Victor Hugo does not include this triangulation of love in Les Mis for the dramatic effect of his audience to seep into. No. There's a deeply profound question that Hugo wants us to ask of ourselves. What sacrifice would I be willing to make in my own life for someone else that I love, knowing that that sacrifice would bring zero benefit to me? You know, Jesus in Matthew chapter 5 asks a similar question, and he gives us a similar command. He says, if someone should ask you for your shirt, give them your coat as well. And if someone asks you to walk with them a mile, go too. It is this type of radical sacrifice and generosity that we see Eponine do, because while Eponine loves Marius, she knows that he is in love with Cosette. And she makes it so by putting herself in grave danger to reunite them. You're gonna hear her song, On My Own. And while this song is a reflection of her own loneliness and despair in her unrequited love that she has for Marius, it also shows the power of personal sacrifice for those that we love. In the context of Les Misérables, it is Eponine's story of love lost, sacrificing her own dreams and desires for the man that she loves so that he may be with the woman that he truly loves. It is that kind of sacrifice that changes the world. Let me say this. It is not just generosity and sacrifice that changes the world. It is radical generosity and sacrifice that not only changes the world, but has and creates enduring ripple effects in the lives of generations to come. Here's the next melody.
A heart full of love, a heart full of song. I'm doing everything all wrong. Oh God, for shame, I do not even know your name. Dear mademoiselle, won't you say, will you tell?
No fear, no regret.
My name is Marius Pomercy.
And mine's Cosette.
Cassette, I don't know what to say.
Then make no sound.
I am lost.
I am
Heart full of love.
a heart full
Of you, a single look, and then I knew.
I knew it too.
From today,
Every day, for it isn't a dream.
not a dream. After
On my own, pretending he's beside me. All alone, I walk with him till morning. Without him, I feel his arms around me. And when I lose my way, I close my eyes, and he has found me. In the rain, the pavement shines like silver. darkness, the trees are full of starlight, and all I see is him and me forever and forever. And I know it's only in my mind that I'm talking to myself and not to him. And although I know that he is blind, still I say there's a way for us. I love him, but when the night is over, he is gone. The river's just a river. Without him, the world around me changes. The trees are bare and everywhere the streets are full of strangers. I love him, but every day I'm learning. All my life I've only been pretending. Without me, his world will go on turning. A world that's full of happiness that I have never known. I love him. I love him, but only on my own.
There is this truth that I believe personally with all of my heart, but yet it's often difficult for me to comprehend, especially when things in my life are not going according to plan. You see, there are times in all of our lives where everything in you wants to quit. Everything in you wants to collapse. Everything in you feels like you are just so alone in this moment. And it's in those moments where our despair just wants to cry out to God to come and intervene, to save us, to heal us, to restore us. We cry out, God, do something. Help me. But here's something we need to recognize when we pray. When we pray, our prayers are not just some sort of communication that we send out into this void. No. Our prayer is not merely communication. It is actually this divine invitation to allow God to come and do what God does best, and that is to use us as answers to other people's prayers. We are God's instruments to be used to answer the prayer of those around us. And sometimes, just sometimes, God will use you to answer the very prayer that you prayed. In this song you're about to hear, it's called Bring Him Home. Marius has been critically wounded in the war, in the revolution. Valjean is an old man, and Marius is becoming sort of his adopted son since he and Cosette are together. Valjean sits in his sitting room in despair, and his prayer and his cry to God is, God, bring Marius home safe, bring him home sound. But even though Valjean knows that his prayer is for some sort of divine intervention, God plans to use his own self-intention. Valjean rises up under his own strength and power, goes into the barricades where he finds Marius mortally wounded, dying. And through his own strength, his own perseverance, he lifts him up, takes him through the Paris sewers, through grave danger, and brings him home safe. That is the story of this song, Bring Him Home. Because here's the truth. Valjean himself was rescued when he thought he had no hope, by Bishop Muriel. And this is a profound truth that Les Mis wants to instill in its readers and its audience, is that rescued people rescue people. Blessed people bless people. And loved people love people. That is our call. Enjoy these selections.
It is time for us all to decide who we are. Do we fight for the right to a night at the opera now? Have you asked of yourself what's the price you might pay? Is it simply a game for rich young boys to play? The colors of the world are changing day by day. Red, the blood of angry men. Black, the dark of ages past. Red, a world about to dawn. Black, the night that ends at last. Had you seen her today, you might know how it feels to be struck to the bone in a moment of breathless delight. Had you been there tonight, you might also have known how the world may be changed in just one burst of light. And what was right seems wrong, and what was wrong seems right. Red, I feel my soul on fire. Black, my world if she's not there. Red, the color of desire. Black, the color of despair. Marys, you're no longer a child. I do not doubt you mean it well, but now there is a higher call. Who cares about your lonely soul? We strive towards a larger goal. Our little lives don't count at all. Red, the blood of angry men. Black, the dark of ages past. Red, a world about to dawn. Black, the night that ends at last. God on high, hear my prayer in my need. You have always been there. He is young, he's afraid. Let him rest, heaven bless. Bring him home, bring him home, bring him home. It's like the sun I might have known if God had granted me a son. The summers die one by one. How soon they fly on, and I am old and will be gone. Bring him peace, bring him joy. He is young, he is only a boy. You can take.
I'm not crying, you are, right? Well, Valjean does bring Marius home, and he and Cosette marry. But yet, this ripple effect of grace and mercy has expanded through generations and people, but not without its loss. The upcoming song you're going to hear, Empty Chairs at Empty Tables, sung by Marius, resonates with us because in our life, we have experienced loss and longing. And just as Marius not only mourns his loss in Valjean, a man who deeply touched and saved his life, he mourns the loss of his schoolmates who fought alongside of him in the revolution. He sits in a dining room, empty chairs and empty tables. He suffers from survivor's guilt and this despair of, was it all worth it? But yet it's in this moment that Marius remembers, and that's the point, he remembers. He remembers his friends. He honors them by singing to them. And here's the thing, this is what's so beautiful about that. Marius is at that table, albeit empty, but he is alive because of Valjean. But Valjean was alive because of Bishop Muriel and his grace. That's the beauty of this scene that you're about to see. While it does encapsulate sort of the problem of pain we have in losing people who've touched our lives, it is this truth that your story is important, but we need to remember and honor those who actually helped us write it.
It's a grief that can't be spoken. As the pain goes on and on. Empty chairs and empty tables. Now my friends are dead and gone. Here they talked of revolution, and here it was they lit the flame. Here they sang about tomorrow, and tomorrow never came. There's a table in the corner. They could see a world reborn, and they rose with voices ringing, and I can hear them now. The very words that they had sung became almost communion. In this lonely barricade, at dawn. Oh, my friends, forgive me that I live and you are gone. There's a grief that can't be spoken. There's a pain goes on and on. Phantom faces at the window, phantom shadows on the floor, empty chairs at empty tables where my friends will meet no more. Oh, my friends, don't ask me what your sacrifice was for. Empty chairs and empty tables where my friends will sing no more.
The last song this morning is "Do You Hear the People Sing?" See, there is earth-shaking power in unity, but there is life-changing power when you're in community. This final song, "Do You Hear the People Sing?" is really the heart of Les Mis in that it teaches us this one profound life-transforming truth, and that's this, that in the face of life's trials, life's adversity, life's uncertainty, the human potential for good, those things that make us good, our capacity for hope, our determination, our resilience in the face of deep adversity, those things that are best about us are amplified in a world where grace and mercy and love are shown and given freely. But in a world that lacks compassion, in a world of strict legalism, the best parts about us are stifled. Jesus taught us something very beautiful when he says this. He says, I want you, as a follower of me, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We call it the golden rule. Now, many scholars of religion and philosophy and theology have said, well, there's nothing new about what Jesus said. Those types of ideas of the golden rule have been around for centuries, even prior to Jesus. I beg to differ. All the other philosophies of religion have taught this about the golden rule. It has often been said that they say, do not do harm unto others. It's sort of like this absence of, or this avoidance of doing any harm. Jesus flips it. Instead of there being some sort of term for avoidance of doing harm, Jesus says, no, I want you to proactively do unto others. Proactive love, proactive mercy, proactive grace. The call of Jesus in that golden rule is not to avoid anything, but to be active in loving people when they least expect it, and even more so when they least deserve it.
Do you hear the people sing, singing the songs of angry men? It is the music of the people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. Will you join in our crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me? Beyond the barricade, is there a world you long to see? Then join in the fight that will give you the right to be free. Do you hear the people sing, singing the songs of angry men?
Thank you. You may be seated. My name is Larry Bauckham, the lost pastor. So I've been off stage for 6 weeks, and Summer at the Movies have been a product of our creative team and also Dr. Troy Doucet. She did a great job. I give them all the kudos. What a great job. They put this thing together, and I'm so grateful. So I also want to take a moment to give thanks to everyone involved in this production, because I have 3 adult kids, a son-in-law, a daughter-in-law, and a granddaughter in that group. Is there anybody here more proud than the pastor? I don't think so. But I want to give kudos to all those, the sound, the cameras, the band. Everybody worked together relentlessly. They actually pushed us back a week because we need more prep time. So it's just one of the gifts we give to you. It's not a normal thing for us. If you come here today and say, is this going to be every week? The answer is no. Because I don't think they'd last very long if they had to do this much work every week. But thank you so much for being here today. We want you honor us by being here. But let me tell you a little more about just Thanksgiving. Next week, we're starting a new sermon series called Connection. It'll be for 5 weeks, more of a standard style for us than what you've seen today. But let's relish today. Why is this important? What most of you do not know is that Les Misérables has been part of my life since I was young. When I was 20 or 21 years old, I just graduated from college and with Becky and I moved from Nashville to Kansas City, and I found this book by Victor Hugo. That book is about that thick, but I'm a really serious reader. And I read it, and the more I got into it, I was overcome by the story of Victor Hugo. Why? Because he's writing a story that really fit me as well. Since then, I've had the privilege to be in London with Becky and her parents and my 3 kids, and there's a Les Mis performance in London back in 1996. It had been sold out for 10 years. And I tried to get tickets, and they said, the only way you're going to get in is go standby. So Becky's parents agreed to watch the kids. We went standby. We landed tickets right near the front edge of the balcony. It cost me $100 a ticket. That's a lot of money for me back then. Still is a lot. But it was worth it. And here's the thing you need to know about me. I'm not overly emotional. I give standing ovations because everybody does it. But in this particular instance, my wife didn't know what was going on. All she saw was The Misérables. It's not a Hallmark movie, Becky. It's going to be something different than that. And when it was over, I don't know that she fully grasped all the concepts, but I did. I was the first one on my feet, shouting and shouting, tears running down my face because of the message that has affected my life. I'd love to sum it up for you in a few words, and I can. It's about a guy who stole a loaf of bread because his sister's kids were starving, goes to jail for 5 years and tries to escape, gets another 14 years. 19 years in jail, and all he saw was hatred and punishment and punishment. And finally, when he gets on parole, no one treats him any differently. He suffers and suffers till finally a priest says, come on in. Gave him a meal, gave him a warm place to sleep, and in the middle of the night, he's just a goody two-shoes. And he takes the silver from the cupboard and he runs off with it. By the morning, the police are dragging him back, and they beat him up pretty badly. And he's before the priest, the Monsignor, and he says, he says you gave him this. And he looked at him and he said, he's right, I did. But what I don't understand is why he didn't take the 2 most expensive pieces, the silver candlesticks. And the police officers left, and he gives them these candlesticks, and he says, I want you to know, with this silver, build a better life. Because in this giving to you this gift, I bought your soul for God. What does that mean? Jean Valjean had a worldview, and this is what Victor Hugo wanted us to see, a worldview of judgment and hatred and punishment. It was a miserable time in the history of France, 19th century. And he saw within that, though, the hope was not the law or the church forcing people to do things they shouldn't do. The hope was in love and transformation. And Jean Valjean, when he gets this pardon from the priest, he has his worldview just all messed up. Finally gets to the point where he's praying and praying, and he realizes, my whole worldview has to go. It's not about judgment and hatred. This person has changed who I am. And the old Jean Valjean is gone, and he begins to live a new life. He becomes the mayor of the town, owns a factory, takes care of people, highly thought of. Nothing but good comes out of this guy. When a prostitute is near death, he takes her to the hospital and takes care of her. At the same time, when she dies, he takes care of her daughter, and she becomes his daughter. In this whole process, there's the Jean Valjean being transformed by the priest and by the love of God to where he makes a difference in people's lives repeatedly. He goes to Marius, there's a big war, and this young man is knocked out, he's wounded, and he puts him on his shoulder and takes him to safety. Everything that Jean Valjean tries to do after his transformation is good. But there's a nemesis, and it's the law. It's called Javert. The police captain gets transferred to the same home where he's the mayor of the town, and all this tension builds till finally there's the discovery of who he really is. Finally, in the capture, Jean Valjean captures Javert. And Javert, the law, says, it's your right, you kill me. It's what you're designed to do. Everything about you should kill me. And he said, that's not who I am anymore. He lets him go. That worldview, even Jean Valjean cannot handle it himself, and he jumps off a bridge because all he knows is the law. The law leads to destruction. Valjean, Jean Valjean, the person who helps and loves and cares for, symbolizes hope for the future. Well, then it gets to the end, the final song, the grand finale. Will you join me in this crusade? Really is what they're singing. As those in the darkness will find their way to the light. As those who have been slaves will be released. Will you join me in this? See, I grew up in a very strict, legalistic environment. And it wasn't about what you do good, as Troy was saying. It's about what you don't do. You know, don't do this, don't do this. My life was defined by a list of no, no, no. And if you do these things, you're going to die and you're going to burn in hell forever. It's a negative message. And I want you to know it doesn't resonate anymore. It shouldn't. There's something new. There's something fresh. And it's the Spirit of God that's available for you today. I used to remember being in the church. I was a dirty, rotten sinner. This is who I was. And if I had to confess that, and I had to forgive it, and then I'm going to be saved. But the first time I did something wrong, I had to go back and start all over again. The narrative changes when you realize that you always have been and always will be a son of or child or daughter of God. You're one of his kids, and he loves you. And that's the theme of this music. It's not judgment. We're a hospital at Suncoast, not a courtroom. It's not about damage. It's about recovery and letting the Spirit of God live within you. I want you to hear these words today, and they're so profound. God loves you, and so do I. God bless you. Thank you for coming today.